Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 21 of the Dreams Are Real podcast. I'm Dan McPherson, and my job and the purpose of this podcast is to share stories and tools that inspire you and make it easier to follow your dreams. If you're experiencing frustration or doubt on the way to your dreams, I'd love to help. And you can go to leadersmustlead.com for more information or to schedule a free one-on-one assessment. Our guest today is Loren Avedon, a movie star with 40 plus years experience on both sides of the camera, an Emmy-winning stuntman, a 9th degree black belt and grandmaster in both TaeKwonDo and HapKiDo, and a passionate supporter of both children and veterans. I was introduced to Loren earlier this year by our mutual friend and speaker trainer, Mitch Carson, have followed him ever since, and am excited for the chance for you to hear his story. In our conversation today, we cover a wide range of topics, including his beginnings and first belt promotions in the old school martial arts world, his big break in film as a replacement lead for Jean-Claude Van Damme in No Retreat, No Surrender 2, the joy found in family and helping others, his achievement of the highest ranks in martial arts, and his growth as a leader, teacher, and warrior supporting children and veterans causes. Through his stories, Loren will remind you it's important to say yes, show up, do the work, and always help people. For more info on Loren, check out lorenavedon.com. And for great behind-the-scenes info and discussion about the podcast, be sure to search Dreams Are Real Podcast on Facebook and join our growing community. And now, here's my conversation with Loren. Welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast, where we aim to ignite the fire that allows you to unleash your greatest potential. I'm your host, Dan McPherson, and I'm on a mission to help you own your story on the way to building your ideal life. The first step toward achieving your dreams is to overcome the momentum of zero. Take a step and let that motion dispel the emotions of fear, worry, or self-doubt. No matter where you are in your life or your career, only you can make that choice. The good news, you've got this. Why? Because dreams are real. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast. I'm your host, Dan McPherson. I am joined today by a guest that I find interesting, exciting, kind, and a fantastic guy. He is a superior martial artist. He holds the 9th Dan Grandmaster rank in both TaeKwonDo and HapKiDo. He has acted in any number of movies and performed so many roles on film sets over the years that I'm sure he has story after story after story that he could tell. We are here to learn his story and to share it a little bit more brightly with the world about, as he has chased and accomplished so many dreams, and I suspect is chasing more. Loren, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Dan.
I am ready to dig in to learn more about the mysteries of Loren Avedon.
Well, awesome. Hopefully I can dig my way out.
I hope that you can. First, I listed, I don't know how many things there that you do, and when we talk, it feels like you are Loren, the doer of many things. When people ask what you do, how do you respond?
Well, I usually say as little as possible, but that's the joke. You know, I mean, the whole thing is we're trying to do so many things in so many ways, and I wanted to just be world class at something. And having been through a single parent home, an only child, from a mother who isn't supposed to have kids, and then, you know, everything else is just kind of thrown at you, right? And you got to figure it out. Luckily, my mother was just a force to be reckoned with, an amazing woman, and was not going to be constrained by any social paradigms at all. And so I'm sort of the result of many different experiences. And what I do and what I continue to do is just try to make a difference, try to do something every day, make somebody smile, do something for myself, do something for others. I'm in my mid-50s now, so I get to be sort of, shall we say, nostalgic about things. And I've kind of come to realize a few things. But, you know, coming from whatever origins or wherever we come from before we become a human, it's amazing how you can, if you're open to it and give the space to it, do so many things and have the intuition, instinct, and ability to just sort of be a blood vessel, just kind of, you know, go with the flow and get in with whatever's going on. But that also requires practice, failing, not doing well, running up against a wall, being frustrated, jumping up and down, pounding the floor, whatever else goes on. But if it is, something that you're passionate about, something that is a dream, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. If we didn't dream, if we didn't try, if we didn't do anything, then, life would be kind of a wasted existence, wouldn't it be? I mean, we'd be other mammals out there, as part of the food chain, and, that's who you are. Luckily enough, they invented cameras and sound and things like that. God knows there's been fantastic people before the 20th century and so forth. But it's just amazing what one can do being in the moment in any specific realm or place in the world, and then adapting and becoming whatever it needs to be. Not trying to push oneself or way on anyone else, but rather understanding and having an ability to just be. And that's something that's huge for me. And boy, was it hard to get to, because I was kind of an angry guy for a long time. I was kind of that way, kind of this way. And, everything happens. And, and then I realized, well, geez, there's three fingers pointing back to me. So stop all that stuff and let's just see what I can do to be of service, be somebody who can, bring something to the situation more than what is. And when you just sort of let go and allow that to happen, great things come into you. I can't really take credit for a whole lot, except I did work my butt off, learning and growing into a martial artist. That's something where you cannot hide anything from anybody. And you learn to be able to read and do this. And that's part of the whole journey. And
So it sounds like now you are what you need to be, or even what you should be in the moment, and that's a lot of your focus. It's maybe not any one pigeonholed spot. Was that always true? Was that true as a kid as well?
No, you're always pigeonholed. The fact is that I just was so lucky to be exposed to so many things. I cannot describe to you there's not enough time or tape or recording to be able to go into it. But honestly, it's just, I heard something, somebody said in some movie or something, I think it was Maud, Maine, Auntie Maine, life is a banquet. Most poor suckers are starving to death. Well, you just sort of, when you get thrown into a situation and you're a child and you're around Hollywood stars and people, there's flash bulbs going, there's this and that, it's all because of your mom and your mom. I was on the set before I was born. I was there in the tummy and I was around all these people. I was born in LA. I didn't move there. I have that excuse. I was born there, and I was just surrounded by so many great, talented, wonderful, artistic people. As you go through, youth and into, being through whatever schools, my mom moved me from LAUSD to go to Beverly Hills schools, and so I wouldn't get my ass kicked every day. So, I was bullied. I was going to go to John Burroughs, where I would have been the 1% white guy and would have been fodder for whatever. And look, I don't see color. I love all people. But the fact is that, that's the kind of thing that you can relate to. Anybody can relate to that, when you're a child, you're formed by all of these experiences and all of these things. But when you're an only child, it's a trip, because you may have brothers picking on you or sisters or this or that. But when you're an only, you're kind of, you got to kind of figure it all out. And, and when you have a mom who's not going to listen to any of your, whining, she's just going to keep breaking all these things down and keep going. And you just kind of go, wow. And then you go through Beverly High, and then, you're going to school with all these, people's rooms are larger than your whole house, and you don't have that. And now,
so you were a little fish out of water there?
Well, I was fish out of water, but I swam right in, because, what are you going to do? I mean, the fact is that you all, through high school is the great, show of all shows. They make TV shows about it because it's defining times in our lives. But after high school, going into martial arts, that was my thing that sort of brought it all together. It's like, well, I need to go to college. I need to do all this stuff, but I don't want to be stuck in an office. I don't want to go here every day for the next 30 years. I don't want to do this. Unless it's the mat. Now, the school I could go to every day, all day for 30 years or 40 years as I've done. So the thing is that that's just part of it. But once you come around to going through the process of being broken down and then built back up and then given these basic paradigms and things that you have to achieve that are so straightforward as they are in a martial arts environment. And if you have great instructors, so blessed to have great instructors, so blessed to have great influence and great people around me as examples, as role models, and people who are not mean or harsh or whatever. And though, there was all of that occurred in my life, that's not what defines me. What defines me is the challenges, and then being the blood vessel again, and then going back to nothing, and then, coming out again. So, martial arts and being with Jun Chung and Philip Rhee and Simon Rhee and all of the great martial artists there, and our dear friend Mitch, is what allowed me to find now what I can really excel at. And I didn't care about the money at that point. I didn't care about anything. And I was going to Jun Chung, and there was Bill Wallace and, Dolph Lundgren, and there's, Barishnikov would come in, and, whoever was, it was just amazing. And then through my life growing up and through high school and beyond, being surrounded by great people. That's the huge
and
thing.
I want to come back and dig into the beginnings of the martial arts in a moment. The question I have is, before that, going back a little bit here in your story, you mentioned when you were younger, you were bullied, you were in some difficult, it sounds like some difficult situations. So 2 questions. One, how did you deal with that? How did you make it through that time? And secondly, in that time, pre-martial arts in your life, did you hold any dreams? Did you have a picture of where you were hoping to go? So
I was a lost puppy a lot of times. What got me through the bullying was just understanding that, at the end of the day, whatever somebody does to you, you can choose to take that and have it define you, or you can just not give them what they want. That's all that I learned is that this guy would stop bothering me, or this group would stop bothering me if I didn't give them what they wanted, which was to whine, bitch, cry, bleed. And I would just be humorous and be like, okay, are you through? That kind of thing. And then, keep going. Or if it was too ominous, where I would lose my breath, not from being beaten, but from fear. And, I couldn't say anything. I was so scared. Then I would just let go. And then once you let go, there's no place else that they can take you. There's nothing else that they can do to you. And then as far as the martial arts and everything else that occurs after you have a structure, or when you go into that, you bring that with you. You have all of these presets of, this or that. But once you're brought back to nothing, you can build yourself up to anything. And then you find that the mind over matter principle is absolute. You can do, well, as long as you're young for the most part, and you're willing, you can do pretty much anything. And if you have great examples, then you're able to excel. So having that paradigm and those opportunities to have a stepped regimen where whatever you were outside doesn't apply in here. Now you're in a separate universe, in a separate world, and whatever you earn and whatever you do, and you are just completely exposed. There's nobody else that's going to break those bricks for you. There's nobody else that's going to go through this test. There's nobody. You have to sit there and be yelled at and told you're the worst in the class, and then say to yourself, oh, he's never going to say that again. And then you keep going. And if you keep showing up, what is 95% of life, right? Showing up. You keep showing up, and you accept things. And see, I'm so blessed that I had all of these great examples. I had all of these great examples to be able to ascertain. And look, I went this way and that way. I found my own barometer, but it's, that process and blessing of those things occurring. Everything you can take is a positive or negative. If you're swimming and as long as your nose is above it, well, guess what? You're good. And that's the thing that you get from that. And when you're exposed to these impossible things, who puts their hand through bricks? I mean, who does that? Well, you do that. And there's a process to that. So mind over matter becomes a huge part of anything that you do in life. And that dojo or doja that you bring into your world and into your life. And look, I've made so many mistakes. I can be a total dork and screw everything up. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, that's part of being a human being.
Now, as we can look at you and see you as a world-renowned martial artist and someone whose skills have been shown on screen. How did you get your beginning in the martial arts? What brought you there, and what were those first days like?
Okay, what brought me there was 11 years old, 1973, in Bath, England, with Tyler McKenzie, Fred Astaire's grandson. And we're traveling around England, going to the Lake Country here and there, and with my mom and Richard and Ava McKenzie. Ava was one of Fred Astaire's two daughters. And Tyler would always take me to these plays in London and all this stuff. And so he was going to go see, I guess it was a Chinese Connection or Fist of Fury, because they call it different things in different countries, just like they call my movies Karate Tiger, and then Europe, No Retreat, No Surrender over here in the beginning. So I'm 11 years old, he's 17, or close to 17 enough. And we go to this theater in Bath, England, and Chinese Connection is playing. And I'm 11 years old. It's rated X, as it should be. We got it kind of wrong in the States, where like we can't show a boob, but we can show everybody getting killed. No,
right.
No, wrong. So the thing is that, so I go to the ticket booth, and Tyler's not going to get me the ticket. He's like part of the whole paradigm. Like, hey, dude, you got to show up for yourself. And so the little gal behind the ticket counter is going, well, you're not 17. I said, give me the ticket. In my worst British accent, she gave me the ticket. I sat there, was awed by Bruce Lee. I said, wow, here's a guy who needs nothing, is a reluctant hero, is such a badass, but doesn't have to be a badass. He's so humble. It was that movie where the Raymond Chow movies, where he did all of, they'd shoot all those movies, several movies at once, and then figure out what we're going to use in this movie or that. And he was just amazing. And I just sat there in awe of this guy. And then coming back to the States, getting back into school and trying to find a martial arts school or so on and so forth. I didn't have the money for that. I hated taking the bus. So, there was maybe Kung Fu Sansu, Shotokan Karate, Emil Farkas's Beverly Hills Karate or whatever, which is, okay, need I say more? And, nothing wrong with Beverly Hills Academy, like Keegan Machado's Academy right now. Look, Keegan is a great guy and will tap anybody out. But the thing is then there was nothing. There was, thank God, Junshan TaeKwonDo. And it was just outside of Beverly Hills. And I bought my first car, drove over there, knew a bunch of guys that had gone there, like Gary Doherty, Mitch Carson, so on and so forth, and showed up and took my first class with Simon Rhee that very evening. I had no money. Had just got back from a trip to Africa, gave up my apartment, did this, did that, was trying to sell used cars at Claude Short Dodge, and was living back with mom because I couldn't afford to keep my own apartment, And so all of a sudden I fall into this and I go, wow, this is amazing. And I just couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was in shape because I'd run cross country. I didn't know doodly. And so that became the whole journey, is now I found what I wanted to do.
What were those first days like as you stepped into that school?
Painful, literally and physically, because the thing about pace and the thing about going into something is that when you had Simon Rhee as your instructor, he's going to keep you going at such a pace. You don't have time to think about anything. You're just going to You're just going to try to keep up with everybody and be at the blood vessel again, but you're definitely not an O positive or a B positive. You're definitely something else. And going through that, my ribs hurt so bad the first 6 weeks because I was breathing so hard. I was learning how to be explosive. I was learning how to do this, do that, become flexible, become this, become that. And I just was not ready. But that was 18 years of age. And, now I'm in this and I can't get enough of it. I would be going to, pre-college classes trying to make money, trying to eat, trying to do this, and begged my mother, please, Mom, I don't have any money. Can you help me pay for my first 6 months of this? Because I just love it. And she's like, yes, okay, fine. And, I was doing the school thing and all that. But look, I found home. I was like home there. And I would stay there. And Master Chung would walk by me and go, don't do something else, get out of here. And I'd say, sir, I just love it here. I just want to watch everyone, and I want to absorb everything. Because by rote is how you learn. You don't learn from a book. You got to see how these people move and then emulate or figure it out. So it was just a huge thing just to get into. My yellow belt test was scarier to me than my black belt test. And my black belt test was 5 years after. I was told I could test 3.5 years after, because your master tells you when you could test. And at that time, the way they did it was you don't have that black belt sitting on the table there waiting for you to be wrapped around your waist. You had to wait a couple of weeks after for them to think about it and make you wait and think about it. And then you did everything, and you don't know if you had three mistakes, you're done. You got to go again. But I did it, and the fact is that it was one of those things that in the beginning was very, very difficult. And I was told I was the worst in the class, and I was told that, and that's inspired me to be the best. And then I started to realize that I was fast, and that I could do this, and I could do that, and all that pain.
Before that connected, what do you remember about that yellow belt test?
What I remember about that yellow belt test is just being absolute. I thought that I was going to die or someone was going to kill me if I didn't do it, if I didn't pass. I thought, I didn't know, I hadn't watched any of the previous belt testings. I knew you had to do these certain things, a certain form, and do these certain things, and then you get your yellow belt in 2 weeks if you passed, and that kind of thing. But I was just absolutely petrified. And, of course, I did get my yellow belt. And then as soon as I got my yellow belt, I bought sparring equipment, and I wanted to fight with black belts. And I'm like, and they were like,
not yet.
Yeah, not yet, because you're going to give me bruises where I don't need to get bruises because you don't know what you're doing yet, and I can't kill you. So get away from me. And then I was just so lightning fast. Dan, I was just like light. And that's what I learned I had going for me, was these reflexes and these.
How did that change your approach, if at all?
Well, the only thing that changed my approach was I kept hitting walls. I kept realizing that, it doesn't matter how fast you are. If your front stance is not perfect, if you are not perfect doing each movement and doing it and feeling everybody else doing it together, and if you're not able to adjust all the time and do everything perfectly, then you really don't deserve any of it. And that's the bar that I set. They set it, but then I set it higher for myself, because that's part of me. And that's something that, again, if you can do that in an organized environment where you're not going to die, but you might feel close to it, then it's always going to be something you can take something from. And that's what I did. And yellow belt was just the beginning. Once I'd gotten that yellow belt, I was just like, yeah. And then, I went through the paces. When I got to the advanced class, everything was very structured there. I'm so grateful for that. So well structured. And, just like in, really good boxing gyms, for example, you think you're going to learn how to box. Well, you're not going to throw a jab for the first 6 months you're in the boxing gym, because you just got to learn how to move, and you got to learn how to be, and how to get that. And that's the thing that they did. You could not pay for a belt. You would fail if you failed. And it was still a karate school back then. Like, dudes were in there with no little junior equipment or whatever, and they were there to learn how to fight. And that was with guys from all over LA that would come to this, and people would drive from everywhere to go to this school.
You said there were a lot of people, even names that we know, that were there.
Absolutely, and names that we don't know that had huge influence on me. And once I got into that whole mode, I would go to the Sunday class, because there used to be classes 7 days a week. I would go to the Sunday class, and then I would stay with all the black belts who would spar for 3 hours after that. And they were nice enough, once I got my blue belt, which is the beginning advanced belt for that system, they would let me stay And they just thought, wow, how cool this kid is, here. And then they would show me stuff, because I was willing to get my butt kicked and still be there and show up. And then they'd say, oh, Loren, do this. And then I'd learn from them. And then I'd go to class and it would be fight night or, put on your equipment. I'd be like, okay, I'm ready now. I've been
you've been with the black belts. You're ready for them.
Right. Not only black belts, but killers. I mean, these guys would go to tournaments if there was a tournament on Saturday, and then they'd be at that class on Sunday, and they would have been there. And, that was the days where you got bopped, and they would drag you out of the squared circle and bring in the next, two guys, and you'd go on. And
was that terrifying at all?
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely terrifying. But what was more terrifying for me was not facing them. What was more terrifying to me was not, and I would go to tournaments, and I would go to Kaji Kembo tournaments, Mike Stone tournaments, to all these places where I would get kicked in the groin, and I wasn't doing. That's not what we did, but I would go there because I wanted to see how I did against all of these other different ways. And I didn't care if anybody else was going. If there was guys going to tournament like Long Beach Internationals, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my best. And eventually, all those trophies that gathered dust, they all ended up in the trash bin. But the fact is that those experiences never went away, and it was terrifying. But it was more terrifying not to face that. And then on the street, as I'm walking around and going wherever I would go, I would have that sense with me, and I would have that, you mentioned it when we spoke a little bit before. I wanted to test myself at some point, but I also realized I didn't want to go to jail. And, the thing is that being in that organized environment allowed me to do that, and then going to places where it was okay for you to kick somebody, punch somebody, do whatever, and you're not going to go to jail, but you're going to get some experience. And, yeah, you got to pay $30 or $40, and you may come out with a little piece of plastic or a metal or something. Well, guess what? You went through that, and now you go back and you go through whatever else you go through, but you did that on your own. And that's part of the learning curve, I think. You have to go out there in the world, right, with whatever you got, and then make it work. So that was what I did.
Built your confidence in some powerful ways. How did that first black belt promotion impact you? You mentioned the yellow belt. The first, I'm a new baby in the martial arts in many ways, but I have been told my son and I are getting ready for our second degree testing in a few months. And I've been told that there's nothing like your first degree black belt. Have you found that to be true?
There is, because again, it's like the yellow belt. There's something that occurs when, you got that black. First of all, they say, and it's true, once you pass your test and you put that different belt on, you improve 20 to 30% automatically. Because there's something psychological about it. But I was told at 3.5 years into training that I had my red belt, 2 stripes, that I could test for black belt. Master Chung had to tell you could test for black belt, or you didn't test for black belt. I don't care if you've been there for 900 years. You're not going to test for black belt until he tells you can. And then I didn't feel like I was ready for that responsibility yet. So I trained for 1.5 years more. I also wanted to do so in a way that, again, I had there was a group of us that really bonded, and we would train and we would do everything together. So I got to train and take my black belt tests with Tom Keller and with Tammy Goldsmith. And we worked towards that goal together. So we kind of had that to work off of each other. And I watched so many other tests. My father, who was not part of my life really at all, except for the fun part, which is why I'm here, he came and he sat there in his 3-piece suit, took off his shoes, and balled himself up and sat. And this is a naval aviator with 13 confirmed kills, 14,000 hours in the seat, 978 traps, a badass fighter pilot. And he's sitting there watching his son, take his black belt test. And I had a lot of other family. My mother would never come to these things because she didn't want to see, I guess, she didn't want to have to go in there and kick somebody's ass herself. Like, hit my son in the face, I don't care who you are, I'm going to kill you. The thing is that test, I didn't sleep for a week before the test. I was maybe all of 154 pounds, and I'm 6'2" for that test. It was August 10th, summer heat. There is no AC or heat in the dojang ever. You're with whatever the temperature is. You're with whatever. If you have to ask permission to get a drink, you can't do anything. And now I'm going to do this test. And there's a picture online, and this is, bless his heart, my mom's dear friend, Hal Frazier, took this photo of me as I'm going through the 2 bricks. I had practiced and I had tempered my hand for a good 8-9 months, and I'd gone through 1 brick. But I knew Tammy was going to test, and I knew Master Chung. Instinctual. I'm like, okay, the girl going to do 1 brick. No, Korean master, oh, no, you have to do 2. So I had the other one ready. And, so the thing is that you see this guy in the mirror doing this, pulling his hair back, and you can see his expression in sort of the mirror, because my mom's friend was outside the school and was taking a picture, and then there was this huge mirror, and all the black belts were there behind the table. And then there's this student who's one of my students eventually in the advanced class. Now that I was an instructor, black belt, eventually I would teach this guy. But there he is holding his hair back, and this look on his face says everything. Like, I can't believe this guy's going to take this little fleshy hand of his skinny butt, is going to go through 2 bricks with a penny spacers. And then all of the rest of it that we went through, and the 3-on-1 fight, and the this and the that, and whatever it was a crucible. And I'm just happy I didn't have to do the park testing, which would have meant we had to do it in the school one day and then go to a park in North Hollywood and do it the next day. That's what I had to do for my second dan in that school. And that was crazy. So it was just an amazing experience. And I was ready to go through the floor when I hit those bricks, because that, that with breaking, you don't think about hitting it. You think about going through it like it's not there. And yeah, that freaking hurt, but you know what? It stung, but those bricks were going to go. It was my hand or the bricks, and that's the commitment, and that's the thing. And then you put on the black belt, and now you're one of the instructors, and that was just amazing.
That's amazing. And it's a lot like life, right? It's either, you say it's the hand or the brick. It's either us or the obstacle. Right. The obstacle is the way, as Ryan Holiday says. Was this around the same time that you got into movies, or did that come much later?
That came later. What they would do is they would call the karate studio for television commercials, for movies. All these big badass Hollywood stuntmen knew how to do bolo punches and fall off horses and get thrown downstairs, but they couldn't kick. And so, we would get these odd calls, there's going to be an audition for this or that. So I had my black belt, and there was a call, for example, there was a Pepsi Slice commercial. And that's how I got my A card, because they hired me, Mark Hicks, who's famous for doing the nunchaku stuff and hitting himself in the head in an audition and falling. He's Bruce Leroy or whatever. And Mark was a bad dude. Let me tell you, he was Chris Tucker's double and all of those Jackie Chan Rush Hour movies. He's a bad dude. And I got to be the other guy. Ernie Reyes Sr. was there at the audition. There were the Castro twins. They were the females. And then so I got my A card that way. And then, they would just call the studio. And then I was in Ninja Turf that Master Chung created. But I had been on the set and around all of this my whole life because of my mother. And
what did your mother do? I think we missed that early on.
Well, you know what she did is she started in the, she put her husband through college and, supported him in World War II. She was only married once. She was told that she would never have children. She got into advertising because she could draw. She taught herself how to draw, became an art director, creative director, and then got into the advertising business because she had such brilliant ideas, and she was so creative with packaging, this, and understanding camera and understanding everything. She was in New York, and then she, J. Walter Thompson, and with all, never mind Mad Men. Mad Men, AMC is doo-doo compared to my mother and all the people that she had surrounding her and what I was exposed to as an itty bitty. I mean, I had the premier dancer of the Royal Ballet, coming to visit us, and it's insane. And the fact of the matter is, my mother was just a creative force. And she had a staff of 120 people and was running all these campaigns for all these huge clients. I mean, Continental Airlines, Carnation Milk, this, that, whatever it was in the 70s and in the 60s and in the 50s is when she started. But so she was this creative force in this paradigm, but what she really was this incredibly devoted parent. But I was the latchkey kid because my mom would be coming home from a shoot and she'd be having a shot of J&B Scotch in the morning to try to get 2 hours sleep, go back to the set because she'd been walking on the wings or on the top of a 707 all night, shooting this commercial for Continental. And I'd be go off to school and whatnot. So my mother was just this dynamic force and surrounded herself by so many creative people in Hollywood, had movie stars at her, it just was on par with them because she was giving them work. And also she was making things and creating things and packaging things and being a part of this incredible dynamic, which is, of course, marketing. I mean, if you can get to people and you can create that image and sell that to the client in the boardroom, and then you get millions of dollars for your company, and you get to produce commercials and go skiing and then shoot this with Jean-Claude Killy and then over here with
sounds like you came by your intensity pretty honestly from an aviator father and an advertising powerhouse mother who was doing it well before women were in that world in a significant way. That had to be an incredible influence in your mind growing up.
It was, and it was just sort of normal for me. I guess you could say, because what happens every day becomes normal,
Did that make your transition to movies smooth?
No. I'd have Barry Newman coming to pick me up to play tennis over at Roxbury Park or whatever. But then once I went to an acting class because I owed my doctor money. This is weird. But what happened was everybody who owed him money went to his house to paint, scrub the floor, do whatever, change his oil in his car, whatever he needed to do. And I met this actor there, and he said, "You should come to my acting class." And da-da-da-da. And I had no aspirations to do any of that kind of stuff. But I went to the acting class, and I was sucked at it. I was terrible at it, I thought, and I was so nervous. I was shaking. Here I am, a black belt, badass dude. And I'm shaking in front of 12 people because I got to read some words on a page. What's wrong with me? So I went and I immersed myself in that challenge. And then, the phone rang at the karate studio. And you probably know the story. But the fact is that stepping in front of the camera, once you're there, once you've gone through the crucible of casting and this and that, now I'm in Thailand. And I've got Yoon Kwai that's going to direct, and I still haven't gotten this role because it's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm in the Ambassador Hotel in Bangkok, and there's Yoon Kwai, and there's Roy Horan, and this is the guy I found to replace Kurt McKinney, and Jean-Claude Van Damme's replacement is down the hall, and da-da-da. But he's like, he said something in Cantonese, and then Roy said something to me, and he's like, "Okay, show me some of your reactions, whatever." And then Yoon Kwai said, "Okay." And then we did the screen test out there in the parking lot the next day, and then all the stuff was waiting for us in Thailand, in Sarawari, and all of these locations. They built all of this stuff, and now all of a sudden, I'm the star of this movie, and I'm like, okay,
that had to be a pretty big head spin.
Bring it on! I'm like, bring it on. But I had the barometer of being on set with my mother, understanding a bit of camera, being able to be the blood vessel. Because again, when you have to line up and spar with somebody new every time, you adjust all the time. And then learning the acting aspect of that, I'm not saying that any of my acting was any level of anything. I just wanted to be believable, entertaining. And in the Chinese paradigm, they didn't care what you said. It was the action. And so I had a great guy, Max Thayer, to play off of. There was Cynthia Rothrock and Hong Jung Lee and Matthias Hughes, who he was discovered when I was discovered. And, and we just did it. You just showed up and did it. It's the Spencer Tracy thing, man. You want to learn how to act, go be in a movie. And it's just, I had all of this other stuff that I was lucky enough to be influenced by. And then when we shot the first scene, it was me and Max bonding a little bit before we go down into this camp to take on all these Vietnamese people, dudes, and the Russians and all that kind of stuff. And we have this little bonding moment, and we talk about it, and so on and so forth. And Yun Kuei saw that, and he didn't speak a lick of English. I think all we got out of him through the whole show was, Jesus. That was what he, Jesus. That's what he would say, and no blasphemy intended. But he looked and he said, okay, like, wow, okay. Because the Chinese are just all about doing it. It's just like.
Do the fight, right.
Do the fight, but you're thrown in front of the camera, and you're like, and you kind of got to ask somebody 3 languages on set, what are we doing? And that's literally how it was. It's not like I was with Roman Polanski or with, Oliver Stone or something like that. We're talking about the scene for 3 days before we shoot it. Here it is, and we change this, and we check that, boom, do it. And that's actually good. But we had a tremendous experience through that whole thing. And I was sick a lot. I would get every little bug you could imagine, and they would bring this terrible food out that we'd have to eat in some little rickety thing, and and here's the soup in a clear plastic bag that they poured in a tin tureen, heated with charcoal or fire, and they're saying, okay, Loren, oh, you don't eat too much because you're fighting after. I said, I can eat anyway. It's all right. It's all good. Meanwhile, excuse me, I got to go throw up and have the shits. So now, okay, let's go shoot the scene. And okay, I got to go. I'll be back in the hole in the wall there, and the hole in the ground, the outhouse, and I was ill, but it was what it was. You just showed up, you did it, and
so all that work you did towards getting your black belt paid off here. Is it was just go through the obstacle once again, just different obstacles,
challenges, and understanding the camera. Where am I looking? Where's my eye line? This, and there wasn't any master shot or this or that. You just were thrown in front of it.
Not exactly the cushy Hollywood experience that most people picture today.
No. And then, you know what? That's a job. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you're there to do a job. You're there because you are that. And, there's a lot of hairy stuff that goes on. I mean, they had rigged the explosives, the Thai SFX team. I mean, when I'm sliding down that thing and I got to get into this guard tower, they've already wired it with TNT and diesel fuel. Okay, the safety aspect is like not there at all. So, and I'm already thinking, like, I'm calling my mom every weekend to let her know, hey, I'm still alive. And did you check my bank account? Did they wire the money over there? Because I'm thinking at the end of this movie, I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. They're going to take me in the back here and shoot me in the head and say, ha, we got rid of that fucking guy, and go back to the next thing. But, of course they didn't. But, that was how it was. It was hairy a lot of times, and that's okay.
Did your experience change as you moved forward and did more and more movies?
Well, yeah, I mean, they did, but I think the crucible of that first one was huge. And then, I was going to do no retreat. I knew, look, I had the opportunity to do other films, but I knew that NG wasn't going to use me in any of his other movies if I did any other films. So I couldn't. So I kind of got pigeonholed a little bit. And I actually called NG and said, I'm broke, I've been offered this, and I need to make some money. So he wired me some money, and then promptly told me 3 days before we're going to start shooting, well, Loren, I gave you that $10,000. Well, I'm taking it out of his salary now for this movie. So all of the time they were always yanking the rug out from under you. And the thing is I was going to make a movie with Keith Vitale. And Keith Vitale was a guy that I saw in all these martial arts magazines in the late 70s and early 80s. And he was on like the cover of everything. And I'm going to play his brother, and I'm training now 2 a days, 3 hours in the morning, doing whatever, and training with learning new kicks, learning whatever I could do, and then 3 hours in the weight room and this and that, and eat, sleep, repeat, and just did that, and then he broke his arm trying to do some of the stuff that I did, in the sort of the stunt team test, and NG came to me and said, okay, Loren, do you know anybody that can play your brother? And I looked at him because I revered Keith Vitale, first of all. He was one of the greatest American champions ever. And he was going to play my brother, so I had such great respect for him. I looked at NG and I said, no, meaning you dump him, I'm walking. You already screwed me out of money. I've trained for this for 6 months. I don't care at this point. We're going to do this movie, and we're going to move things around. And then, we're going to do this. And Keith, 10 days later, with arm and broken in 3 places, starts to do this film.
Oh my goodness.
And shows up, and I mean, just blows everybody away, because he and I got along famously. We just gelled like we do now. He comes and hangs out with me because he's in Atlanta. I'm here in Clearwater, Florida now. And, we always talk about all kinds of things. But it was just, that was the kind of situation that you were always in. There was always imminent danger. A movie set or a set is one of the 10 most dangerous places you can be in the world, other than, say, an oil rig in the middle of, the Arabian Gulf, or a bomb diffuser, or, in combat, for example. I mean, that's one of the 10. It's in there. Being on set is so dangerous. But
it's not something most people think about.
No, and it's true. I mean, you could literally, a 10K light could fall over and you could die right there from that, just because the wind blew, or a reflector, or you're like in the first movie, you're in a pre-rigged explosive set. And these guys in the first movie, these SFX guys, they're smoking a cigarette with a cherry
right next to the diesel fuel.
He's got this box of TNT in front of him with crystal nitroglycerin that is, leaked out of there. And
what could go wrong?
And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, very bad, no smoke, no good, And this guy picks up this piece of nitro, and he takes the cherry of a cigarette and he puts it on there and it goes and burns his fingers together. And I went, see? And it's, yeah. See?
Wow.
Good.
I know that when I was in Thailand, the safety regulations were pretty non-existent. Even just simple things, nothing like what you're describing. But we went to see the tigers, and they had a stick with a ball hanging from a string that they were distracting the tiger with. And they said, and they looked at me and they said, if the tiger looks back at you, get back. I'm like, really? That's that you have an actual cat toy that you're using to keep the tiger away. And what you're saying is 10 times that level, but I get the sentiment of the country.
They're Buddhist, they figure they die, they're going to come back in a better form. So, life is cheap in a sense, and their sort of philosophy, and their, they're very spiritual. You don't put a boat in the river except on Thursdays without prayer. If you every single vehicle, I'm sure you experienced this, that we were in and we were driven by was blessed by monks. And one of my first, visceral experiences, I've had so many spiritual experiences, was the monk thing in this first movie. They wanted to put a camera on the dashboard. And you don't put your feet on the dashboard. You don't touch anything but the stereo knobs or put a tape in. You don't touch any of that, because that's been blessed by a monk. And there's 1,000 winds of string around the
right.
thing and all that. And so these guys want to put an Aeroflex 35 millimeter camera, $300,000 camera on to get a POV shot of, me in a tuk-tuk or something like that for North Center 2. And the guy driving the van says, I'm not driving the van. You just broke, the mojo or whatever, the sacred thing. And you know what happened less than 3 minutes later is a huge truck rear-ended that very van.
Oh, man.
And we had been through 8 weeks already of just dangerous roads, and nobody's checking there's no safety checks on any of these huge trucks or any of these buses with people hanging out the side of it. Anyway, this $300,000 camera goes flying through the front window and bounces on the asphalt. Then all the Chinese are going and buying Buddhas, the gold chains, and they're kind of changing their whole tune. And but if that's the way it is over there, you have to accept that. It really is something you have to accept. It's CYA, right, Dan? CYA.
After you went through that crazy experience with your first movie, did you fall in love with films, or was it something you did?
You know what? I was absolutely a junkie, and I was bitten by the bug, and I went back to America and was totally frustrated for 2 years, waiting to shoot No Retreat, No Surrender 3, and was just so frustrated that, how come I'm not, and they put this movie out in 2,500 theaters, Shapiro Glickenhaus Entertainment, me and Dolph Lundgren were, Red Scorpion and all that. And I did a better per screen average than he. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, he's Dolph Lundgren, I'm me. But the thing is that I watched myself at the Hollywood Pacific Theater in a crowd of Americans, and, they were maybe laughing at some of the points where they shouldn't really be laughing, but the action was just mind-blowing to them. And that's what carried me on. But I was so frustrated. I'm like, wait, I was just in 2,500 theaters. How come I'm not getting like offers to do this or that? And no, that's not what happens. What happens is the machine calls you when the machine wants you, and you don't get to do that. You get to, maybe, and a lot of people have always said, oh, Loren, you were before your time. I said, no, I was exactly in my time. And, I did whatever I could do for that time. But that's just what it is, man. It's a machine.
And since then, it seems the machine's been a little bit favorable to you. You've been in a good number more movies. What have you learned in the process of doing all of these movies? What are maybe lessons that you might share that you say, this is how it works?
There's how it is you adapt, and you got to be ready for anything at any time. That's just pretty much it. You're pretty much like, on high alert, and it becomes like a drug, and you make a family out of this family that you're with, and you're going through this experience with, and and then you want to go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. But you also, look, I had to challenge myself as far as coming back down to earth. And that's what was huge for me was the martial arts. And that's what saved me at the end of the day and kept bread on the table, because at the end of the day, I had to take care of my mom as a good son. I had to make choices to be a good father and give up this and that. And what I was doing was more important to me, to pick my daughter up from school and maybe stunt for, 4, 5, 6, 10 days a month, and, get my ass kicked, but show up for my daughter. And then my mom taking care of her. There was nobody else that was going to take care of her. Only son, only mom. And so when she lived so long and went through what she went through, it was my honor to do that. But something has to go, something has to be sacrificed. And I was willing to do that. I went to Hawaii. That was my thing, to kind of disconnect. That was my therapeutic thing, build a house in paradise and then take care of my mom until she goes to the next level. And I did that. And so that sort of thing is a choice. And, that's something that kind of bothers me about a lot of Hollywood or a lot of people that are thrust into these other situations. They don't have that principle or understanding of martial arts to kind of go to. Martial arts, when Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out in movies, and I saw this little blonde girl, and whatever, and that day doing martial arts, I'm like, okay, it's on now. It's going to be in everything. And sure enough, it was. I ended up working on Buffy, with Sarah Michelle Gellar, thanks to John Medlin, Steve Tartaglia, and so many other greats. And a lot of them had encouraged me and had asked me for so long, why don't you come and play? Why don't you come on the set? Why don't you do this? Because they knew that I knew cameras so well, and I was so great with safety, with being able to do, a 100-mile-an-hour spin kick and come that far away from somebody's nose who's carrying this whole, show, and not hurt them or whatever. That whole kind of experience, it's a balance. And the thing is if you're not willing to go back to the root, if you're not willing to start over again every time, then you know what, you're just going to be disappointed all the time. And I feel sorry for a lot of the Hollywoods, the other folks that are out there, and but not by any cause of their own, but they get into drugs, or they get into this, or they get into that, and that's also because those people that are showing up and being vulnerable in these movies are really people, and stuff happens to people, and very well, I know very well, we're surrounded by that all the time. I had the martial arts and that understanding of self, and don't get me wrong, I screwed up all the time. But I had that to ground myself again and go back to teaching. And that's something I devoted myself to, is anti-bullying programs, at-risk youth. Worked with the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles. I worked with Penn Youth in Hawaii, and was always helping to promote those kinds of things for kids who don't have the opportunity. I would help J.J. Perry, he just got through second unit directing Fast 9. I got him a couple of his first jobs in LA, fight choreography for me. But here's one of the greatest martial artists that has ever been in the 20th century. All Armies champion, All Armed Forces champion, Olympic alternate in 1988. And just an incredible man, incredible talent. I knew it. I smelled it. And, he goes on and on and on and on, but he sacrifices family. He sacrifices himself. He, when I see him and we talk, we have this brotherly love and understanding for each other. But I would go to Inglewood and teach at his school. And I would go to Inglewood all the time. People were like, are you crazy? You're going to get shot. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. The gang members' kids are in my class. The shot callers' kids are in my class at the school. And we, whatever color we are in this area, bringing something good to a really bad situation. And there would be the tape and the tape of the body and the blood stain from the guy who got shot on that street right near the school. And we would just keep carrying on, keep coming, keep doing. And that's what I did in the South Bay when I moved there to be a dad to my daughter. As I got into California Youth Karate Club, worked with the LA County Sheriff's Department, brought after-school programs on campus, on site, went stumped for that. So went back to zero again. Yes, all these movies gave me a little platform, but what it was me showing up for those people who needed that, and that gave me such great joy. There's nothing like the joy of being a teacher or sharing something with somebody and becoming a part of a community and being able to be the blood vessel again and showing up and being fearless, but being scared to death at the same time, but being fearless in front of them and showing them something and making their kids understand that what you can do is anything you set your mind to. And I'm showing up for you because I care about you. And it's all about this journey and the love that I have for all of you and where I come from. I'm not any better than anyone, and you can be just everything that you want to be. And here I am to say, here's how you can do a little bit of it. So
it seems in all the things that you've done that you've stayed true to your core principles of driving through obstacles, your core principles of being there for those who needed it most, whether it was bullied kids or your mom or these kids in the difficult neighborhoods or the kids in Hawaii, wherever it is. Staying true to that center purpose is, it sounds as if that is what has been the connection of the tapestry of your life, is always doing that, always being who you are. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and it's tough because they want to, you talked about pigeonholing, and they want to stick in a pigeonhole. They want to say, all you can do is you're a martial artist and you're an actor, you're this or you're that or whatever. And that's true for anybody in any phase of life. And the fact is that, dreams are real, and being true to yourself, you have to live with yourself and look in the mirror and like what you see every day. And the thoughts in your mind and that little voice that says, what's that little voice he's talking about? That's that little voice in your head that's going, what did you do today for somebody else? What did you do today to make the world better, you better? You're blessed to have had all of this given to you, thrust upon you. Yeah, you're not, I taught taught Sage Stallone. I taught all of these people, and I was around all of these people, but at the end of the day, who do I love? And what am I going to do when I look at the mirror? And what am I going to see in myself? And what do I want? And those core principles and what I learned by being a part of the big of the family is that we're all family. And that warm, fuzzy feeling that you get by being a part of that family is what it's all about. It's all about love, and that's true, And it can be love of drugs for some people. It can be love of this or that. So having a set of at least principles and understanding cause and effect, understanding what can occur if I do this, and being able to witness that, see it, and make another choice, and have the ability to make that choice, having seen so many people in so many other countries that will never have anything close to what you've already forgotten about and what you have had that they'll never have, or whatever it is. It's all perspective. And so when you get into any community, anywhere, what do you want to do? I know all my neighbors here in my little Clearwater, Florida neighborhood, and I come and help the one next door that has MS. The other one, if I drive him to the hospital, I'm no better than he. And I hope that and all of this good energy that we create, right? I hope that continues with me, and that then when I do need to put that armor on, or when I am challenged, or when I am put into that situation, that I make the right choice always. But if I don't have myself to look in the mirror and say, you're okay, you're good, you're a good guy, and you tried your best. That's all we can do, because we all go back to wherever we came from. And just out of just pure sacrosanct whatever, I keep reading this book that is by Reinhard Niebuhr. It's called The Nature and Destiny of Man. I started reading this book in college. I never finished my psychology degree or whatever. But what it is it goes through the sort of the Christian and other religious ethics and whatever. And what is our nature and our destiny? Well, we're doomed to make the same mistakes over and over and over again, because we're not able to pass along knowledge to the next generation. And there's always going to be somebody who comes along who is in a powerful position and so forth, and who can do terrible things or great things or both. And we're always just going to endlessly repeat this life or what happens, and we're never going to really learn, even though, we can't pass on. You can try as much with your son, and your son will be better than you, and I'm maybe a little bit better than my father. I don't know. But the fact is that we're probably doomed to repeat all of these things over and over and over again. And that's our nature and our destiny. Question is, what happens after this? Well, I'd like to think that wherever I came from and the experiences that I've had that I cannot explain, absolutely cannot explain, and whatever anybody else may have, that's what I go to. Okay, there's definitely more here on this earth than news, weather, and sports and whatever else is going on, and I have to eat. And there's a whole other thing, whatever, 11 other dimensions, string theory, quantum physics, quantum entanglement, all the stuff going on. But I already instinctually feel all of that, and I'm connected to that. And
being connected to that and connecting with so many other people and having such a heart for teaching, you also have been recognized at the pinnacle of martial arts as a grandmaster in 2 different martial arts. What was that like, and how does that connect with you? It's a powerful thing, and I think for many it's a number. For me, being involved in the martial arts, it has a much different meaning than it might for others. But we've talked about your story as a yellow belt, and I would be remiss if we didn't clip the other end of that a little bit and say, all right, here's what it felt like as a yellow belt. What did it feel like to be recognized as a 9th Dan grandmaster, the pinnacle of martial arts?
Well, the fact of that is that it's what you do for the martial arts that allows you to attain that rank. You may do a form, or you may do these other things, but it's who you are as a representative of that style and that art that allows you. Now, look, I was, as a 1st Dan, 2nd Dan, maybe I can just polish my own, knob here for a second. I was one of the best kickers in the world. And that's just bottom line, because I got in the ring with guys, and I also, I knew that cinematically I was just, for what it was in that time, I was one of the best. And that's because I worked my ass off to be the best. And so what happens is nobody ever, you don't go, there's a certain time you have to wait, for example, through the cookie one. Through the cookie one, I'm only a 6th Dan, okay? I should be maybe an 8th, but because my first master didn't register me at this certain time, because of politics, because of this, because of that, we all know the cookie one had some little issues with the IOC, with the USOC, with WTF. So the thing about it is that after Master Chung gave me the boot and I was a Ronin for a while, I would train all over the place, and I found other masters. I found other ways. I did Wing Chun, I did Muay Thai, I did all these other things as well, and I kept doing that. And then I was always come back. I was always going to tournaments. I was always helping with every single thing. Like, people would call me up and say, "Can you go do this?" And yes, I would be there. I would work with the Eagles demo team. I would do this and do that and do that. So I just kept showing up. And then what happened was I met one of the founders of the Cookie One. And he basically, as a round eye, made me into more, because age is a huge thing in the Korean culture. And I started to get a little silver in my hair and do this and do that. And I'd always show up and I would test for this and I would do this and I would do whatever they asked me to do. Whatever it was, I would do it. And so eventually I was a great example, and I think I still do that. And I don't walk around telling people who I am or what I am or what Don I am. That's the last thing I do. What I love is that they find out later and they go, oh, wow. And the thing is that who I am and what I project is the ability to connect. And then being a ninth Don doesn't mean you can kill everybody, beat everybody's butt, What it means is that you've reached a certain level of influence and of pinnacle of representation of your core arts. And you are told, again, by this echelon that you can now take this Don grade test or these tests. And I was told also that I could kind of skip a Don because of all the going on with me. And I had my grandmaster 23 years ago ask me, Loren, because of all you've done in film, I can get you whatever Don you want as an honorary Don for through the Cookie One. And I said, well, sir, 5th is enough for me. He said, are you sure? And he kept asking me, are you sure? I could make you like a 9th Don if you want. I didn't feel like a 9th Don, just like I didn't feel like I could test for my black belt at 3.5 years into it. And I think that's part of being the whole GM. When I would go around and I would fight these tournaments and do these things, and I'd see all these, and I would coach JJ, for example, and now I have Grandmaster Cho and Lee and whatever, and they're going, I'm going to punch your face, I don't like you, that kind of thing. I said, go ahead. I'm going to sue you and take all the money you had. And then JJ would knock people out. And then that's it. And then I would go through all these Pan Am championships and show up for, to become an international referee and blah, blah, blah. And, in Quito, Ecuador, and do this here and do that there and travel. And I just kept showing up. Again, life is 95% showing up, but also who you are. So pinning that GM on my shoulder or whatever, that's just something that I am so grateful to have been offered the opportunity to have that kind of representation there, and to have it come from one of the founders of the Cookie One, to have it honored and represented by the world is huge. There's plenty of people out there selling black belts, but I was never sold a black belt. I didn't have to pay for any of these Don testings or anything, because I was contributing, I was donating money anyway to this or to that or to this or to that, and showing up at all of these events, supporting Taekwondo.
What I hear you saying in everything that you do, let's see if I can sum this up right. Say yes, show up, do the reps, pass the obstacle, and help people.
Do the best you can with whatever you're offered and whatever you can do. And whether it was with the sheriff's department up at Idlewild with 300 kids that they're all gang member kids, or some of their parents have been murdered or whatever, and you get to go and teach these kids a little martial arts class, and you get to get them sit there and meditate, and you talk them through, okay, now you're breathing, you slow and whatever, okay, think of the golden light. Think of that golden light starting from your head and flowing all the way down through your body. And then you see these kids transform, like they're glowing now. But these are kids that will never get a chance to go on vacation, never get a chance to go to Idlewild and ride horses, or have a bicycle to ride, or to be in the wilderness, or to do any of these things. So yeah, show up for everyone, because that could be you as a kid, again, or whoever it is, or what. Yeah, show up because you care, and show up not for the prize, but for the opportunity to show up and to do something.
You mentioned the book earlier, and we'll link to that in the show notes. And certainly you've talked about your teachers. Are there any other resources, whether it be books or podcasts or people that you would point others toward to say, this will make it easier? This has made it easier for me to chase my dreams. It might make it easier for you.
I don't have the golden, scepter. I really don't. Everyone has to find out what runs them and who they are and what they are. And if you understand at the end of the day, you're a human being, but you can be superhuman, or you can be a gift to someone else. And if that becomes important to you, great. What happened with me that really was transformative is I went through something called landmark education. It used to be EST. I don't know what it is now, but I was going through a very tough time in my life, and this guy dialed the phone, and I signed up for this thing. Basically, they strip you down to nothing, tell you that life is empty and meaningless, and then from there, your story or whatever you bring to it from the past goes away, and you can create whatever that is, and create the future from the future by the possibility you say you are. Well, that's a martial art too. You're just not hitting anybody except yourself. You stop hitting yourself, and you start going through whatever it is to be possibility. And then once you understand that paradigm and you go into that phase, that's a mastery of self. And I'm not saying I'm a master myself. I say, like Joe Rogan said, in his Strange Times comedy thing I was telling you about. I'm a dumbass, but I'm just showing up, and I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm going to take whatever you got, and I'm going to make it better, and I'm going to just treat everybody with love, and because that's how I want to be treated. I don't want to be worshipped, and I can't tell you whatever it is that works for me may not work for you. But don't do anything harmful to yourself or others, and maybe we'll have a better planet to live in. But you know what? That's some of the things that I had to go through, and that taught me things too, is having to go after real evil and face real evil and real things that can hurt you think make you feel good but are not good for you, and people that aren't good for you, and then you eventually find yourself, and you have that gimbal that brings you back to the center, and then you go back to the root again. And that's the thing. If you can keep going back to the root, keep failing, it's the whole Rocky thing. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up, and blah, 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 blah. That whole speech is perfect. And that's it. I don't have any golden orb for anybody. You have to find it for yourself. But if you're willing to be humble in your approach and willing to continue learning and never stop learning, then you can maybe, make a difference in everybody and in yourself. And then every moment that some people can't take just being quiet or being with nothing. And that was a huge paradigm shift for me when I went to Hawaii and decided to be in Hawaii. So I realized, shoot, I'm in a forest. I don't have a TV to turn on. I got no cell phone coverage. I got nothing. And I barely get any radio. So I'm in nature now. What am I going to do? Well, you're going to be with yourself. And if you can't.
Scariest person in the world to be with is ourselves, right?
And then who are you? And what matters? What is it that matters? You can reach the pinnacle of all things. You can be the king or queen of this or that, and you'll abdicate it all for love. Or you can just keep walking, keep going, and then whatever shit's slung at you, you wipe it off, you keep going. Whatever else is thrown at you, you take it, the good with the bad, and you just try to be good to whoever's around you, no matter what it is. And that's it. That's the key to life for me. Is just whatever it is. It doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is. It's who you are when you're going through it and what's going on for you, and looking in the mirror, and every night being grateful, thankful, saying to me, I do pray, and I don't necessarily subscribe to any philosophy or anything. I just know I'm connected, and I'll say something. I don't say that with any arrogance. I just feel that way. And I will always listen to that barometer. I'll always, you say, what's your North Star? I would say, my North Star is my heart and my gut and my instincts and things that I just do. And people tell me, don't do that. You're not going to turn, nothing's ever going to happen for you. That doesn't matter. I can't listen to you. I have to listen to that, and I have to be me. I have to try this. And then like my father came back later because he told me when I was young or whatever, you'll never amount to anything, that kind of thing. I'm like, well, gee, thanks, Dad. You were there for so much of my young life to help me be something. Okay. But I was like, okay, fine. You know what? You think that? I don't care.
Having heard that
Yeah.
from your father,
Yeah.
and now thinking about this phrase that's based really around the podcast, what is this idea that, especially having heard stuff like that, what does this idea that dreams are real mean to you?
Well, you have to dream about something or be passionate about something or see yourself as something or in order to go get it. And that means hard work. And that means failing a lot or doing whatever it is for some people's journey is, oh yeah, I just invented this thing and now I've got all this money and now I get to spend it all. What's shitty about being a billionaire? Well, nothing, Okay, that's him. But he, she, they, you, I like who I am, and that's a big part of life. I was a good son. I am a good father. I am a good master, and but every day I have to cook, eat, clean myself, and I'm a human being. I put my pants on one leg at a time, but I'm going to dream big and shoot high and aim low, and somehow it's all going to work out. And that's, people say you're crazy, Loren. You moved to Hawaii. What are you, nuts? I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You maybe think you're nuts. You know what's nuts to me is doing the same thing over and over again every day. No, that's nuts. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this because I can. How do you do it? I don't know. I'm just going to do it. And then, you just find things and that's the beauty of this human being that we are. And some of us don't get it that easy or whatever. But sometimes when you throw yourself in there, it happens for you. Be bold and great forces will come to your aid. And that doesn't mean be a jerk. That means just be bold, but accept all of the things that you have to do to get to that. Eat as much crow as you need to, but don't sacrifice your own, identity in doing so, or know that what you're doing is, what you think is right at the time. And then you go, oh, well, that was dumb or whatever it is. And then you just keep going because
you've kept going. You've
yeah.
kept going through so many things in so many ways and in a lot of different areas. What does it mean now when others look at you and cite you as an example that dreams are real? You look and you've accomplished so many things that others would dream of. So when they say that, man, you are the example that I look at when I say dreams are real, what does that mean to you? How does that feel?
It means the world. When I get all of these people telling me how I inspired them to do the martial arts, I inspire them to do this or do that, and because I did a couple of movies or whatever, and that's again just showing up. But that just means the world because I made a difference in somebody's paradigm in their experience or in their opportunity or their thought. And you can do anything you set your mind to. Everybody gets what they want in this life to a certain degree, right? So be careful what you wish for. But the thing is show up. Show up, and then I don't sit there and go, oh yeah, I'm so great. No, I'm not. But if I can be a better, kinder human and still show up and help others that don't understand to maybe understand a little bit more, whether it's me, watching the little kids across the street, making sure they don't run into the street in front of a car, or whatever's in front of you, you just do. And you do it well, you do it excellently if you can, or do the best you can. And then you can look at yourself in the mirror and keep going. And then all these other people may look at you as an example. And, I just try to be kind with that. And I always am. And I used to get these letters in the mail. Now it's every day bombarded with messages from all over the world. All these things that I've gotten to experience. And it's not ego. It's not ego that they're speaking to. It's them telling me that I've reached them. And I don't know how I did that. I did a couple of things, but it's now me being me. And that's part of teaching, training, absorbing, being the blood vessel again and going back to the root again, not expecting anything. Because when you expect, you get disappointed. If you don't, you get surprised. But if you don't dream, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be defined by something that somebody else tells you, and that's not anything that you should do.
A lot of it is doing the right thing the right way all the time, and the right things will happen. and that's the natural outflow, right?
Doing the best.
What you put into the world will come back to you, the law of attraction, in a very simple way. We have reached our fortunate 5. The 5 questions that I ask everybody I write. Super exciting. These are the 5 questions that I ask everybody about things that maybe have been fortunate in our lives or will be fortunate, and even a little bit into the world. The first of those questions is, what's the most exciting or adventurous thing you've ever done? And you've done some pretty crazy things. So what would you say is the most exciting or adventurous thing you've done?
I'd say watching my daughter be born.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say that is the greatest miracle of all miracles. And knowing that moment that I was no longer going to think about myself. It's the first time in my whole life that I didn't think about me, that all I thought about was this little person. And I would have to say that. And then over and above that, just, every day there's an opportunity. But that, it's kind of like you said, I mean, life is a series of experiences or things that you're thrown into. I can't pick a needle out of a stack of needles and tell you this was the greatest thing of everything. But what comes to me instinctually is watching my daughter be born and cutting the cord and counting all her little toes and feeding her bottle and watching her grow up to be a person and having some part of that dadness that I didn't have.
That's very powerful. I didn't have as much of that either, and when you shared that moment, it hit me, and I pictured myself being there for the birth of my son. And it's not the answer that I would have given, but my answer may have now changed. That's very, very powerful. What is something that you wish you were good at but aren't yet?
Wow. I wish I were good at changing with the times. I think I seem to be in the wrong times sometimes, or I'm so old-fashioned, or I'm so. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I mean, I accept things the way they are, but I think that we're losing a lot of things when we substitute our humanity for technology, or think that whatever we've got that's so great is now lowering our humanity and our ability to connect. In fact, when you're looking down at a phone and people are doing that, and you kind of want to go, hey, ho, stop, whoa. Hey, you're in the present. It's a gift. That's why it's called the present. And you're looking at this little thing, and you're now at a lunch with somebody, and that you've waited a month to see, and you're both looking at your phones instead of talking to each other. I wish I could somehow reach into everybody's lives or world, somehow mystically, magically, be the person who says, hey guys, perspective, but I can't. Everybody got to figure it out for themselves. And that's just me trying to, reach out and connect with everybody, because I want everybody to be connected, but not by their phones.
I saw a photo essay a couple of weeks ago, probably shared through Facebook or YouTube, where the photographer had taken these pictures where people were holding their phones, but he'd removed the phones from the picture. And it was very powerful to just look at and see what it really looks like, what we're really doing. It struck the chord. I get that.
And that may be an odd answer to that question, but again, it's just me wanting to show up, because I want people to be in the moment at all times when they're in their lives. Yeah, you got to communicate for business. I'm shooting myself in the foot with a podcast right now, right? Like you shouldn't listen to this. You should, go walk in the woods. Well, yeah, you should, with your friends or whatever, but everything in its time and place. So sometimes I wish I could understand a little bit more, but I'm also kind of glad I'm an old dog.
I get it.
I'm glad I know what it is to be in the 60s and play with rocks and kick cans and stuff like that, and just bond with people and be around people, and wish everybody could connect in a way that makes them love each other more and understand each other more.
You have that bridging perspective, but it makes adaptation challenging in some cases. The third one is this: what's the best meal or food experience you've ever had? I'm guessing it wasn't the food on that first movie.
Dude, I am just such an Asian food nut. I just love all Asian food, Korean food, Thai food, Vietnamese food, Japanese food. I can't choose. It's again a needle in a stack of needles. But I guess I'd have to say comfort food would be probably like something mom used to cook. That I would, always just made me feel good. And I can't. It's probably just her tuna casserole or something like that.
Nice.
But
something that's filled with memory.
And with memory and with love. But as far as like every day, like what do I want to eat? Well, I'd love to just eat Korean food and Japanese food, and have some Cantonese food for breakfast. I'd love to have pho for lunch, and then have it's
I could get with that. I feel like I need to hang out with you to do that, because that's right up my alley. Traveling through Southeast Asia and eating that food all the time was incredible.
Absolutely.
You've traveled around the world. Where is a dream destination travel-wise that you haven't been yet that you want to go?
Wow, I've been so fortunate to go so many places. There's so many places I want to go back to because I want to experience them again. I think traveling, and again, this is probably just another deflection of your question, but traveling isn't really fun anymore.
Okay.
It used to be so much fun to go on a plane, and the stewardess would be there, and you didn't have to worry about taking off your shoes and taking off your coat, whether you have clear or not. So that and then now it's so populated. I'm one of these people that likes to go wherever it is and be with the people who live there and be with them in their life in that moment and in that situation. And that's hard to come by now. Like Rick Steves, I sit there and I watch that guy. Oh, you're so lucky, to do all this stuff, to go all these places and experience all these people at that grassroots level. And I think probably, look, I got to say, I can't wait to go back to Africa again, even though it's really a tough place these days. And Americans always have a target on their back in the world. That's the way it's always been. But I would like to go back to Nairobi. I'd like to go back to Kenya. I'd like to go back to Tarangire Game Park, to Ngorongoro Crater. I'd like to go back there and experience wildlife while it's still there, because it's dying. The last white rhino, just passed away. They have 2 females that hopefully they can in vitro fertilize and carry on the species. But I love nature, and I would just like to go back and see it again before it's gone. And I feel really sorry for people who don't get it. I don't understand the whole Chinese thing about, okay, eat this rhinoceros horn and be potent more. I don't get it, but I'm not a 5,000-year-old. I don't come from a 5,000-year-old culture, so I have the benefit of sort of choosing. But I would like to go back to Africa and experience safari again. As far as a place I've never been to, I'd like to go into outer space, dude. I would like to leave this earthly coil and be Neil Armstrong and just be out there in the vacuum and freaking feel what it's like, or not feel what it's like, to go 18,000 miles an hour.
Do you just want to orbit, or are you thinking, man, I'm on my way to Mars?
I want to be freaking Captain Kirk, dude. I want to freaking go and check out other places and then come back and see my planet. And, it's been 300 years, but I've only aged 25 years. But I can't do that. So what I'm left with is I really love where I am all the time. I try to. And wanting to go somewhere and going somewhere that's usually exhausting. When you come back from a vacation, you're more exhausted than when you went to the vacation. Yep. I've been so lucky to live in places where people go to vacation.
Yeah.
And like Hawaii, like Los Angeles, California, now Clearwater, Florida. So I'm just so blessed. And so really I'd like to feel what it's like to do what my father did, for example, and fly. And do so that where I would just leave this earth.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I would love that.
So, reach out to Elon Musk. You'll make it happen.
Elon Musk or what's his name from Virgin?
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. Bless their hearts. But the fact is I would honestly, I'd rather be the guy that I'd rather have been Neil Armstrong, right, where you didn't know if you were going to make it. And
you want to go through the barrier.
I want to go.
You want to go through that obstacle, man.
I do. I just absolutely want to see the Earth from the moon.
What do you hope or believe will be the most exciting invention of the next 30 years?
Wow. I hope it's the curing of all illnesses before, and the understanding of, without genetically modifying our human being, but of just taking out that whatever thing that makes us sick, or could make us sick, but also the decompression and the depopulation of the world. I think that we are far outblowing our planetary ability to use the resources of the earth. I mean, it's just a fact, and we've made a big mess. I take responsibility for my generation's bit of it and whatnot. So I'd like to see, just in 30 years, and you know that scientists only reach out now to about 2050. So it's interesting that you say, what do you say? What would you like to see happen in 30 years? Well, I'd like to see us all become a little bit more human, a little bit fewer people on the planet. Sorry, folks, if I'm not being PC. But the fact is that I think every life is valuable. I'm not a Buddhist. I go hunting. I have gone hunting, and I will do that. It's part of my makeup as a predator, as an apex predator. But I just would like to see that the Earth get past, and people get past, all of this BS that goes on in the world, and the power struggles and the lies, and kumbaya. And maybe Greta Thunberg has started a little something. But the fact is that's probably, according to Mr. Niebuhr, never going to happen. And our planet will solve itself. The meek shall inherit the earth. Could be just little insects after we're gone. We're only a speck in the timeline of our planet, and we've been conscious of ourselves for 150,000 years. So I'd like to see in 30 years from now a kinder, gentler human being that still has a paradigm of ferocity, but ferocity for good and for each other and for the regeneration of the planet. This may sound, hippy-dippy to you, but, the thing is that this is the only one we've got. And these bozos who say, well, we want to go to Mars. No, dude, you don't. You don't. It's 450 centigrade during the day, and it's minus 250 centigrade at night, and you'd be living in a bubble. And why? You always want to go where you don't want to go? Well, why? Because you want something different? Well, you've just been born in the Goldilocks zone of one of the only places that science can actually verify that there's life. Well, I'm sure there's other life out there somewhere, somehow. It may not be exactly what we have in mind. It could be just little microbes or little things or whatever gave us life. But we're in the Goldilocks zone, so I hope we, in 30 years, come around to my daughter. I might be gone, but I hope that my daughter and her generations put the brakes on, figure out, what's really important, and it stops being a money grab, because the billionaire game ain't working, man. And
I hope they show up and do the work.
I hope they show up and do the work, and that they make money not a substitute for character, and that a better, kinder race, the age of Aquarius really becomes the age of Aquarius.
Better humans, right?
Yeah.
As we wrap up, is there a certain thought or message that you'd like to leave with our audience?
Love each other. Love each other. Accept each other. And, and then if there's something that you think somebody might want to change, be that first. Don't be pointing the finger and whatever. Just love each other, and that's hard to do, especially if you're not getting what you want. But, the fact is that somebody's always got it worse. So, before you judge, before you condemn, walk a mile in that person's moccasins if you can, and get down there and understand. You got to get on the floor and play with the kids before you can look up and say how great you are, right? So I don't know. That's just love each other. That's what we're made to do, actually. We're made to play. Human beings are made to play. We should be out there in the jungle running around, goofing around, playing with each other, And somebody came along and said, well, it's better if you have all this stuff, and then we got to make somebody, the king of all of it. Like Joe Rogan said last night. It's so funny that I got to watch this last night. Like, why do we need a president? Like, we need a popularity contest to make somebody tell us all what to do? Well, no, we do need that as a social structure. We need somebody who is ultimately telling us where we should go, what we should do. But I hope that all just come to that conclusion. Love each other, be accepted, tolerant, and yes, if otherwise the bad people and the bad things win because you become that. That's my advice.
Love
Coming
each
from
other.
sage old, middle-aged man, been around a few places. Love each other.
Simple, powerful, necessary. How can our audience find you? What are you working on that they should know about? And how can they connect?
Well, I've got a website that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. God bless WordPress, but whatever. It's LorenAvedon.com. That's LorenAV as in Victor, E as in Edward, D as in dog, O as in ocean, N as in Nancy.com. I put some blog posts up every once in a while. I'm on Facebook. I'm not as much on YouTube as I'd like to be because I'm too busy enjoying the world to be recording it. I'm not used to that. What am I working on? Well, could be some great stuff, but I'm the type of person that doesn't like to talk about it because I think it's a jinx. And I'd rather show you or tell you later. And that's something that you come from when you're in a part of something that's going to be a paradigm shift or you're going to bring something to the world. You don't talk about it. I loved going to the Buffy set, for example, when I first started to get, a couple years into going back into stunts, and all the scripts would be marked top secret. Nobody knew where Buffy Studios was, this and that, and it was all the stuff. So I'm working on some things that will hopefully pop out, but what I want to do is continue to make a difference. Hopefully can create something that's going to give back more so and create more awareness. And we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, it's great to be with you, Dan, and I hope people get something from this. And I'm so pleased to know you. And, I hope we talk again.
I'm pleased to know you. I'm grateful for our mutual friend, Mitch Carson, who introduced us. And he certainly has been good and helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time and just honoring us with your stories and sharing what you are about, what you are up to, and where you are going. Thank you so much for the connection, and I look forward to connecting again soon.
All right. Dreams are real.
Thank you for joining us on the Dreams Are Real podcast. If anything we've said has inspired you to dream bigger, live more boldly, or move closer to your ideal life, please reach out and let us know, and also be sure to share this episode with a friend. We would be honored if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review for our show on your favorite podcasting platform. And for more discussion of this episode and all things related to the Dreams Are Real podcast, and to receive your free download of Dan's Defining Your North Star training, please join our Dreams Are Real community on Facebook. Until next time, be amazing and keep crushing it.